Can't help it. Help it. I always take on too much. Sorry. And Daniel says we're good to go. If everyone would stand up, and take pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Which is one nation, God, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank everybody that come out to spend the evening with us. For everybody that ain't familiar, Michael back here is from Texas, originally from here. He's come to check out what the town of Mills River is all about. He lives just barely outside the edge of the town. Glad to have you. He's friends with John Case, if that tells you anything. You consider him a friend, right? Okay, I need approval of the agenda, please.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Jeff. Second?
I move, well, we need some corrections on there, but we've done discussed that.
Yes. Okay. Sandra second with your, I think that's on the, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We got any announcements? Absolutely.
For property acquisition that we need to discuss, please.
Do you wanna, just say it at G, or do we
Yeah,
need to move it?
He's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Is Jeff and Sandra both good with the, agenda with the addition of the budget amendment? I think we'll just move forward to that then. Any announcements? Anybody got any public comment? Anybody willing to wanting to make public comment? Nobody on the list. Move on. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Randy. Second,
I'll second it.
thank you, Sandra. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to the regular agenda, the memoranda of understanding with the Mills River Farmers Market and Blue Ridge Literary Council.
Mr. Mayor, as part of the budget adoption process this year, there's a call for requests from nonprofits in the community. We had several of those come and several of those funded, two of which included the Mills River Farm Market, Blue Ridge Literacy Council. The farm market was a little bit unique this year in that the town is funding both its operations as well as matching dollars for the SNAP program. So, and to make sure that we're all on the same page and all in agreement for what those funds are to be used for, we prepared two special appropriations funding agreements, one for each organization. I'll just start with the farm market. You can see in your packet, the date of the effective agreement would be July 1st. There, it explains under the number 2, second paragraph, the town is committing to $14,780 of operations and then $17,500 for the SNAP program. And clarifies that the town is committed to funding operations both this year and next year, with next year's amount to be determined. And then the SNAP program, $17,500 annually for 4 years, this year plus 3 additional. That is the gist of it, and I'm happy to take any questions. The Literacy Council version, it's the same thing with just tailored to that dollar amount and their request. So if council is in agreement with these, we have spoken with both agencies. I won't speak for the farm market, but I think everyone's in agreement with with that language. And then I spoke with the Literacy Council this afternoon, and they're good with it as well.
Okay. All right,
Daniel,
anyone?
I did have one question, Daniel, on the sheet from the farmer's market about what the Mills River Farmer Market needs from the town of Mills River. It says money to fund the double snap program was approximately 10 to 15,000 per year.
Mm-hmm.
And we appropriated 17.5. Was I missing something?
No, this was just the original request that we got several months ago. But what was actually in the budget is what was included in the agreement, which was that 75.
And it
I've-
also,
I was just wondering how we come up with 17.5 if they were requesting 10 to 15.
I believe that was Councilwoman Good. Did you? You know, I don't remember where that.
We,
came from.
we did work that out though in the budget to appropriate 17.5
Mhm.
through the period of, till that money was, as long as that money was available through
Mhm.
2023, I think.
right.
Yep.
Right. And I was gonna say on here, it says, on what the market will provide, it also had on there a seat on the board for me, and I'm not on the board.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. That's something that I think that you guys. Yeah, I mean, that's, the board is your purview, the farm's purview.
That sheet that Councilman Austin referred to was an original wish list that we brought to the council a year or so ago when we first started talking about trying to do something together, and it was nothing definitive. It's just, these are just some ideas. So that's what that sheet referred to.
Okay.
And the request of the 8 to 10,000, that was just looking at previous year's numbers, trying to estimate that. That's where that.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, while you're up there, Linda, would you, give us a little, what they did in the month of July? Have you got that tallied up as far as SNAP money?
Oh, close to $3,000 in the month of July.
Okay.
Yes, every month has been greater than it had been last year, for the SNAP dollars, for
Okay.
sure. And, precinct as well. We're getting more SNAP swipes each week, but it's not always the same family swiping multiple times. It's new families that are coming, so we're starting to reach out to the families.
Me too. I think that's a great idea. Anybody got any more questions?
I just had a question for staff. I presume the the reporting requirements were ambiguous on purpose, didn't specify any sort of,
Mhm.
I mean, just as one member of this council, annual report would be like the low bar over my expectation from both agencies. If they enter into this agreement, at least get an annual report.
Yeah, and this can be modified. This is just the initial draft. So if we want to specify that at a minimum as an annual report, that's certainly within council purview.
Just to touch on what Sandra was saying a minute ago, so the seat on the board of directors, is that a seat for the farmer's market board of directors appointed by council?
I'm going to defer to the farm market.
No.
No, once again, that was just things that we could bring to the town, that we would be willing to bring to the town in order to reach an agreement. There was never any agreement about putting a council member on the board. We just felt like, what can we offer to the town that would show our good faith that we want to do all we can. We thought, well, we can do this. When the market was created in 2009, there was a board member that was a member of the Ag Advisory Committee at that time. But through the first few years, whoever that representative was never came and never came. We don't even want to try to have anybody. We don't think we need this. So when Laura Lee was on the directors, she would report back to the Ag Advisory Committee what was going on, just to keep them abreast of things. But there's nobody on there at this time, and nothing was decided during our meetings to come up with our relationship, that there would actually be somebody on the board. I believe in one of your early meetings, there was discussion about getting somebody involved with the market, and that's when Sandra volunteered to be a volunteer so that she would have more firsthand knowledge of what was going on. You folks know better what was happening. That's it.
So Jeff, do you want to add annual or biannual or?
At least the annual, I think would be good. I mean, the way the agreements are written, I mean, the town has, in my opinion, plenty of authority to intercede anytime it seems prudent if there's questions about anything regarding either agency or their funding. So, but I just thought as a at the outset that if both parties are aware that, you know, our expectations in annual report, whether it's calendar year or fiscal year, but it'd just be nice to have them come back and
We'll definitely get you a report.
Okay, all right.
But
you know, we will be, if y'all give us the money, we'll be sending you a bill every month. And so that way, that will also have our numbers in. How much money we need, and then send it a report annually, that's great, we'll be supplying information. That's all. What, you know, for the-
Matching SNAP money is no. Yeah, okay.
So that, there's no issues, just whatever y'all want to do, like daily. We may argue about that, but you know, just anytime you need information or however you want to do it.
I think if it's okay with everyone, maybe we just modify the paragraph. Maybe paragraph 10 and state that at a minimum in March of every year, the market agency provide a written report of its expenditure for the year, something to that effect. Is that acceptable to everyone?
but I just think there should be an expectation of
Yeah.
at least an annual report. And if there is a or a requirement for a report that we say, you know, we expect it in March or June or December, but you know, just so everybody's clear.
I think as long as we get it in March or April, so we can see what we're doing for our budget, to get in our budget numbers.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's typically when nonprofits are invited to come and make their annual requests. I thought we'd have it the same night. Perfect. That would coincide.
So you're
So-
looking for the report that would have through March 31st information.
And I think that for the farmer's market, it's probably not a big deal. Literacy, I don't know what they're gonna have for us in March. I don't know how they work as far as that goes. They'll be getting ready to start a new season. So they'd basically be giving us last year's information. And for, you know, they could throw in a projected what they think's gonna happen this year, but it'd be just a projection, but
Might I suggest maybe that you amend the Blue Ridge Literacy Council to have an annual report at the end of their fiscal year? Or at the end of our fiscal year? No?
I mean, as long as it works with his budget, if we're gonna renew or this nonprofit money again, it might be something that we want to hear about we might want to see that report in the process of the renewals if we're gonna extend it out again.
Yeah, I think it's wise to have that done either the meeting before or the same meeting that requests are made for the subsequent fiscal year, which is traditionally has been March.
Well, the farmer's market ends its season in the last weekend of October, and then the first weekend of November, they do a fundraiser holiday market for the school. So it might be good if we could get, you know, maybe a midway report and then an end of the season report.
Yeah.
Well, then for now, since we're just getting into it, maybe go for end of the season.
Then that way, well, that way we might be able to work it into one of our light load meetings sometime through the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. We'll put, he'll put in there by May, or by March, end of
Mhm.
March, and then whenever you get it to us, you get it to us. On yours for sure. Is this a significant change that it needs to be redone and brought back, or can we approve it with the amendments?
That's up to you. I'm comfortable making that change at the meeting, but that's up to the board.
Any more discussion before I ask for a motion to approve these, or? No? Well, if someone would approve with the modifications to them,
I approve with the modifications made that we, go forward with this contract.
second?
I'll say.
Thank you, Jeff. All in favor? Aye.
May I clarify, was that both agreements?
Both agreements. Right,
And-
send it
and
to a
you're-
motion.
And you've authorized, is it the mayor to sign or?
Yeah, the mayor's on the agreement. So
Never mind,
All
mayor.
right, thank you. Okay. Done with that. Moving on to B, committee, reappointment for the Ag Committee.
At your meeting on June 23rd, we brought you application for, Bert Lemkus for reappointment to the Board of Adjustment. Not Board of Adjustment, I apologize, got that on my brain. The Agricultural Advisory Committee. And I explained that I was having difficulty getting one from Bradley Johnston. Councilmember Young stepped in and helped. And he was able to deliver that to me recently. Council has them. So if you want to consider reappointments, their terms would end August 27th, 2024.
Entertain a motion for both of those gentlemen, and y'all
Are
decide.
those the only applicants on file currently for that committee?
Yes, we do not have any other applications on file for that committee. And just for your information, both members have been on since the board was formed in 2023 or 2024. I'm sorry,
2000.
2003 or I've been working on the audit all day. I've been in all different months and years. I'm confused since the beginning.
Spring of 2004, 204, I think.
Make a motion that we reappoint Bert Lemkus and Bradley Johnson to the Agricultural Advisory Committee.
Second?
I'll second it.
Sandra, thank you. Any discussion on those two? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The quarterly financial dashboard.
I'll just start with these are unaudited numbers. But I don't think anything will change significantly. At the end of the 2021 fiscal year, the town was in excellent financial shape with revenues far exceeding the budget. We were at 121.2% of our budget. Revenues for property taxes, sales tax, and utilities sales tax came in well above what we anticipated. Permit fees were also much higher than we expected, but then we've talked all year about increased activity. So we know that that's where that's coming from. We've had much heightened interest in our picnic shelter, park, and field rentals this year. So those fees are over budget as well. I think we will have no trouble renting our new shelter once it's open. Interest on investments also far exceeded our expectations. because near the end of the year, interest rates started climbing at North Carolina Capital Management Trust. The banks did not choose to follow suit. I'm hoping some of them will have started moving in like the last few weeks, but I hadn't seen that before June 30. Also, revenues for the Powell bill are more than we had predicted because the state of North Carolina finally did pass a budget and included more funds. So our allocation was higher for the second part of last year. Expenses came in below budget again, as they do every year in all departments, though the budget was adjusted a couple of times to accommodate for the fire department payments, meaning that property taxes were higher than we anticipated. So the fire department share was more. It shows on here capital outlay. That was for a new park vehicle, improved, more interactive website, updating recording software, a space needs assessment, and our riverbank restoration. The cash distribution pretty much shows we have a healthy amount of funds. This does, it shows Capital Management Trust like 1.27%. It's now, as of yesterday, 2.09%. So our money is making money for us finally, and we've already exceeded this year's budget, not anticipating rates to go up as quickly as they did. And because of that, we've only got 2 CDs. I hope to be able to spread it out more very soon and get some competitive rates. Your fund balance commitments haven't really changed except for some of the values. You've got a reserve for cash flow that all summer we've been pulling down funds because tax revenue is not coming in. We hope in the next few weeks that may change. But we'll let Orly explain that. We have a capital reserve account for town hall and one for parks. Also one for future law enforcement. And a reserve for building maintenance, which I believe in this fiscal year is going to be spent to do some modifications to this building, some improvements, worn carpet and paint. Which at June 30 left you an uncommitted fund balance of $3,046,980. Any questions?
Nope. Proud of staff and all for being conservative and keeping us on track and not letting us go wild crazy like we could sometimes. And our lead for staying on everybody and making them pay the tax. Anybody else got any questions or comments or? Hearing none, we'll move on. Ordinance 2022-14.
You've seen a similar ordinance to this before. This is basically your ARPA funding. We had to do a grant project ordinance. Your funds ended up in a special revenue fund in order to keep track of them. And the grant project ordinance, the first one you saw had estimated values. This one has been updated for, and in the first category on page 2 through June 30, 2022 for actual numbers for salaries and benefits. The other years are better estimates. And so at the end of next year, we will probably bring it back with final numbers as well. Just to refresh you, the salaries and benefits is that because we received less than $10 million, we were able to do what they call revenue replacement. So essentially, any dollars we spent on salaries and benefits, we were able to replace ARPA funds into our budget, which freed up general fund dollars, and it's less restricted. So you're able to spend it more freely. Just FYI, you still cannot spend more than we've already spent. We have to actually revenue replace actual dollars before it's completely free. So at the end of last year, it was 773,000 and some change.
That's right.
Our plan is going forward is to try to make a new calculation every quarter.
So we need a motion to, approve this ordinance, correct? Okay. Anyone got any questions or discussions before we get a motion?
But now we're keeping a tally on what, I mean, we've earmarked that, even though I understand how it's moved into the general fund, so it gives some latitude for the town to spend it in different ways, but than the fire department and SNAP for the farmer's market, that's really the only expenditures that we've charged, that 2.3 that came through ARPA.
That's right. That's right. So beginning July 1st of this year, we've got that 773 number, sort of as a starting point. And then you back out what we gave to the fire department, that 75,000, then what we committed to the farmer's market. So that's roughly $145,000. We've got 630 and change available to be spent this fiscal year. As early as today or tomorrow.
Right.
If you so desire.
And yes, I have spreadsheets on all of this. So I'm keeping up with each expenditure, what we revenue replaced, each expenditure. So even though once it's been revenue replaced, it's no longer ARPA money, there are still reporting requirements. So we are keeping up with what is ARPA money and how much we've actually spent of it.
I guess an extension of that question will also be that once this council decides where to direct additional funds, how hard or how heavy of a lift is it to make that available on the town's website so that public can go and see what the balance is, what's been expended, and what remains? I think because this is going to be sort of an ongoing process, and I don't want to be sort of a closed off process, that I would like to be as open about it in terms of it's 2.3 plus that's, come to the town of Mills River, and this is how it's being expended. And if there's unexpended dollars, that they can see what's still up for.
I don't think it would be difficult. I think I would not provide the spreadsheets that I have because it would be confusing. I think if we made a more simple report, the town received this much this day, second transfer, we received this much, and here is how we've allocated it.
Right. And the other concern I had was just that, if somebody just picked up this ordinance and they thought, well, we just rolled it into the general fund and we're just, nickel and dime, and all of a sudden 2.3 million is going to be gone when, there may be expectations for the town and the public of where this money should go. So I want to be first open about where we are in the process and where it's going. But secondly, also to assure people that, it just didn't get rolled into our general fund and, it's just lost and we're not going to do anything with it. I want to, really sort of.
Well, yeah, I can work on a report. I would run it past Daniel and we can get up there as soon as you want. My only concern is right now you've got 2.3 million and you've spent 75 plus this committed to 17.5. So it's going to look like you're just sitting on it.
Yeah.
I think that the plan was to try to have discussions on this in the next few meetings. And then maybe we put a report up.
Okay, well, I just want to put that out there so that it's on your mind as staff, that anything that, as this comes to fruition, that I want it to be as readily available to the public as possible to see what we have, what we've done, where we're going with it, and, not have to search through minutes or.
Oh, it's a good idea. I hadn't thought of it, but it is a good idea.
Well, even at the LGCCA meeting, I think town of Laurel Park asked each one of us to reveal what our plans was or what we had spent the money on so far. And everybody did a pretty good job of what they'd spent it on or was going to allocate it towards. So we be handy, be open. Everybody will appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll take care of it as soon as we can.
Anything else to discuss before I call a motion? If someone would, we'll make a motion to approve this.
Mayor Gantz, I'll move that this council approve ordinance 2022-14, the grant project ordinance for Town of Mills River for the ARPA funds of 2021.
Thank you, Jeff. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Randy. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to independent auditor agreement for 2022 audit.
Mr. Mayor and Council, a couple of years ago, the General Accounting Standards Board, or GASB, one of the couple of organizations whose rules we follow for accounting and auditing purposes, came out with a new standard, basically requiring an independent auditor to review your audit. And in its simplest terms, we have an auditor on contract that does our annual audit, which is happening this week. Then this contract in your packet is to hire another gentleman, Brian Broom, who will review the audit once it's complete to ensure that the auditor followed all the proper auditing procedures and protocols that are required for local government audits. So it's $2,000. We've worked with this gentleman in the past and he did well for us. And we just need to, it's a new year, we just signed a new contract. And again, it's $2,000 and I'm happy to take any questions.
So this is something that we are legally bound to do
Mhm.
then.
That's right.
Have we checked with any other local municipalities? Is this pretty much a standard rate for a like-sized municipality or?
I
per
would say
call?
that it is. Have you heard from anyone? You know, I've not spoken with anyone directly.
I've not spoken with anyone directly either. But this is the same amount he's charged us the last 2 years.
Okay.
And there is a shortage of qualified municipal auditors.
Okay.
So we were grateful to find some.
Any other questions or discussion for staff on this?
You just need authorization to enter into this contract on behalf of the town? Is
Yes,
that what
sir.
you're looking for?
And if you'd authorize someone to sign it.
Yeah, and someone to sign it also. Want to make a motion and we'll get it in play.
I'll make the motion that we hire Mr. Broom again to do the independent audit and have the mayor sign the agreement.
Second,
I'll second.
thank you, Jane. Any discussion? All in favor?
Uh,
Okay, we need to set a public hearing date for text amendment 2201, traffic impact analysis.
Good evening, council members. So at the February planning board meeting, we had an informal discussion about the town's traffic impact analysis requirement. Currently, as it's written in the code, TIA is only required for a major subdivision, which would be any subdivision of 11 lots or more, and no other type of development. Although staff does recommend it for townhomes. At that meeting, the planning board directed staff to conduct research of TIA thresholds and compare it to some ordinances in our surrounding jurisdictions. Staff presented this research at the March planning board meeting, and at that meeting, the planning board directed staff to draft a formal text amendment specifically with new thresholds based on vehicle trip counts, 750 vehicle trip counts per day or 75 vehicle trip counts generated in a peak hour for a proposed development. Staff drafted that language and presented it at the August meeting, and the planning board recommended approval and passed a consistency statement. And so the next step is to set the public hearing so staff can move forward in the process. And we're proposing September 8th for the public hearing date for text amendment 2201.
Any questions?
I might need a little education on this because, and my question comes in that it sounds like they need to study the traffic to find out if they need to have a traffic study. So, I mean, is that commonplace or how do you project the trips that would trigger the analysis without starting the analysis? So I didn't know if this would be cumbersome to folks that
Th-
wouldn't meet that, but they have to hire a professional to figure that out.
This type of trip generation threshold based on the number of projected trips is common. It's based on, I don't remember the exact manual, but a national certified manual from the Institute of Traffic Engineers, I believe it is. It's the national standard where basically there's a table and you can tie any type of development with a formula for the number of units, land area, whatever, to vehicle counts. So as long as basically an engineer has this manual with this table, they can go down, find their proposed development, do a calculation and come up with the number of trips, and then they would have to provide that to the town. And we also have a traffic engineer on the planning board who created a draft table for Mills River to use to basically check what engineers send in. So an example would be a single family subdivision, and I don't remember the exact number, of about 70 to 80 houses generates more than 75 trips in a peak hour, and that would trigger a TIA.
Do they take into account for that Amazon and the interstate shutting down?
The interstate shutting down, no, because this is just a national table of land uses and vehicle trips that would come from it. But
Right.
yes, warehouse and distribution is a use they could tie vehicle trips to, specifically truck trips. And that was another thing the planning board asked, was to incorporate a truck trip equivalent for passenger vehicles. So like a 2-axle tractor trailer would count as 2 passenger vehicles, and you'd have to use that in your formula to see if it triggers a TIA. But it is a standard in most of the other jurisdictions we looked at. 1,000 trips per day or 100 in a peak hour is the standard. I think DOT is 3,000 average or trips per day. Brevard, I think, was 2,000. And so we're going a little more stringent just under that, or that's what the planning board recommended. And again, this is all draft language that the council can consider, change, and modify in the public hearing.
Did this come up, Michael, as a remedy to a problem that we've had in town here, or is this?
It's something that's been identified in the comprehensive plan. Like there's a couple goals that it hits to basically update our TIA standards. The issue I see currently and what some of the planning board members brought up is it's a burden on a developer that's building 12 houses. If you build a 12-house subdivision, you're a major subdivision, you have to provide a TIA, which is expensive, hiring engineers, doing traffic counts in the field, etc. That's one part of it. But there's also no TIA requirement, like for the Jeffress Townhome project. If there were a new commercial operation or a big warehouse distribution center that would open up in town, there would be no requirement for them to provide that, and they wanted to capture that.
So bear with me for just a second while I get this around my head. So you would have a chart that says if a proposed development is going to generate more than 750 trips per day or 75 in a peak hour, that they would have to go forward with a traffic analysis study. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that would replace what we currently have that says that you have to have that if it's more than 11 lots.
Yeah, major subdivisions only.
Okay.
Any development would be, I guess, as it sounds. So if I just had a parcel and I want to put storage units on it, I came down or went to the county for a building permit and had to come to the town as well. Would that be swept up under that? I'd have to furnish evidence that, my storage units aren't gonna trigger that 750 vehicle count?
The way the planning board directed me to draft the language, any type of development would be considered. But again, this national, and I don't know the exact name of the table, but this national board of engineers, with traffic engineers, puts together this table. It's a national standard that's used across the country. So I wouldn't, I mean, storage units usually are very low impact because they're just housing things and there's not a lot of traffic coming in and out. But that would be something on the table where the engineer could look at the number of storage units and come up with a number. And if it's below 750 vehicles per day or 75 in a peak traffic hour, AM or PM, they would not have to provide anything additionally to the town.
And that'll be provided to him by an engineer of the landowner. He's got, if I heard you correctly, you'll have almost like a cheat sheet made up to double check the engineer to make sure it's in par with.
Where I was going with my hypothetical was I understand that if you're doing a subdivision, you're gonna retain the services of an engineer and surveyor and whatnot. But if you're just a property owner and you're gonna do one little commercial development, and I just threw in storage units, that I might have CAN plans that came from the manufacturer, and then maybe I have a engineer 50 miles away that did a footing plan, and then that's all I need to get my building permit. And then
Mhm.
if the town doesn't have sort of a cursory review for something, as Mr. Malachek pointed out, that most folks will recognize probably doesn't meet the threshold, but the landowner that's just wanting to do a few storage units, do I have to go retain a traffic engineer to reference this manual and give a good output from that table? Because, even though I practice engineering, I don't know anything about traffic, and I wouldn't know how to come up with that number either. So I don't think landowners would, and I just didn't want to be a stumbling block for just small development. Well, let me say I applaud the planning board for trying to include this. I just don't want any collateral damage that we impose a hardship where people are hiring engineers that don't have to, just to prove that they're not big enough to trigger the full-blown analysis. And that any development sort of gave me some heartburn about, I think we might sweep up some folks and cost them a few $100s or maybe $1,000 for a simple commercial development that otherwise they wouldn't need.
And again, this is just proposed language, totally up for modification by this council.
So how, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, man.
I was just gonna ask Michael, how would you go about addressing the concerns that Jeff was talking about, where you would, I know what we're after the bigger developments that create a lot of traffic, to maybe have a traffic analysis. So how do you foresee you writing an ordinance that would keep you from having to hire an engineer for something like Jeff was talking about, like storage units or something like that? I mean, I'm sure a lot of this will be taken care of in-house whenever they come to get their permit from you. You can just look at your chart and say, okay, you're not going to generate more than what our threshold is. But we don't want to cost somebody money that they don't really need to spend.
I understand.
Yeah.
The actual traffic manual, the national standard with these tables, is something that can be purchased as well. It's has a price tag to it. So I mean, the town could even purchase the whole manual, or as I've talked about with the planning board and with our traffic expert, Mr. Moore, he could provide us a cheat sheet of limited uses that basically I would just check and make sure someone falls under that limit. But again, I wish I had it before me, but I mean, we're talking about a threshold of a 70 home subdivision or at a hotel with 100+ rooms. So smaller commercial developments would not even come close to getting that threshold triggered. But I'd be happy to provide more information on that when we get to the public hearing.
I have no problem with it as long as we can word it where we're not gonna cost anybody time nor money that they don't really need.
So when they look at these, how far is it generated right at these entrances, these counts? You know, like when we, yeah, at the entrances.
So it'd be like, yeah,
How much is actually coming in and out of their business?
that gets more into the actual traffic counts. If a TIA is required, that an engineer would send someone out to go do at a corner or at a driveway entrance. This manual with the table, is just something engineers across the nation have put together, and they've determined, through tons of analysis and reports, that this type of development with this many units or square footage of building area equals this number of vehicles leaving the site or leaving or entering the site in some fashion.
Exactly. I was just thinking back to, the last, when we asked for engineer to give us a traffic count on the possibility coming across from the big subdivision. And they said it would result in 0, which didn't make no sense to me, but I'm no engineer, but this would be, when you take the area for what they're wanting to do, that manual should give you the count leaving or coming in and going out of that operation.
It doesn't have the manual that would be referenced for these thresholds wouldn't be locally applied in any way. Again, it's just a national standard
standard.
that tons of engineers have
Okay.
studied and put together. And again, it's just a formula. This number of units equals this number of cars. And if you exceed these thresholds, which again are just proposed thresholds, the planning board decided on, then you would have to hire an engineer to put together the full, 20-page traffic impact analysis,
Okay.
where they're doing vehicle counts, where we meet with DOT to decide scoping. So what intersections need to be studied. Sometimes I'll add another intersection. So that's all decided when the TIA is actually
Okay.
required because of the thresholds
So
triggering it.
my next question would be, with everything you got on you, if you had that manual, could you work that in to checking this? Or how much time would that take up versus them hiring somebody to give us this?
They'd still need to hire someone because
I'm talking about just because this trip count, actually, once they reach it, then they have to go get the TIA, correct?
yes,
But if they don't reach it with the manual,
they don't have to do anything.
well, that's what I'm saying. Have you got time to do that initial part?
Checking if the threshold is
To see if they've
triggered.
broken the trigger threshold?
I mean, it's just looking at a table. So I would say yes.
So in your professional opinion, is 750 or 75 the sweet spot to catch the big offenders, but not be cumbersome on the 11 and a half house developments?
I'll leave that up to council. But as I've said, Hendersonville, Henderson County set theirs at 1,000 per day and 100 per peak hour. The planning board wanted to be slightly more, catch a little bit more. And so they went 200 to 750 and 75. Brevard was 2,000 per day. And again, DOT is 3,000 per day, and their thresholds for any type of roadway improvement, are much higher because they just can't capture so much and require so many roadway improvements.
And James, I went to that, planning board meeting and they kicked around a lot of numbers for quite a while. So, and they came up with 75 and the 750.
So there is
They-
thought behind it.
They had logic and thought behind it.
Okay.
I thought they did a good job whenever they were discussing it. So.
Well, I like where the mayor was going with, I think the onus should be on the town for that initial trigger. And if something can be done at staff level, in-house, great. If the volume is too much, or if it's too convoluted, then I would even be receptive to contracting those services, whether it's from the town's engineer now or a different traffic engineer that we farm out and say, we had 4 permits come in this week and they need to be analyze for traffic study and farm them out and just get the thumbs up, thumbs down, then reply back to the applicants and say, well, you've triggered it by our engineer or by town staff. But I still have heartburn over putting the monkey on the back of the applicant, especially if they're not gonna be anywhere close to have to try to figure this out or find somebody or, fumble through it. I just don't want it to be a stumbling block.
The easiest way to bring the threshold calculation fully in-house would just be to buy the manual, which is about, I can't remember, but about $1,000. And we could buy that. We could even put in the language that it has to, a new one has to be bought every so many years. But again, as long as I have the table, it's easy to go down the list and figure out what the trip generation would be.
If,
Steve,
we-
Go ahead.
sorry, if we have this in place and it surprises us, you think the numbers are gonna be low, and when reality comes, they're higher, is there any way then that we can do something about fixing the intersections or the entrances onto the road? Or is it too late then?
Once a development's approved, probably not. I have put in some language in the draft ordinance, which again, you'll see in the public hearing, that basically says the zoning administrator can require improvements above and beyond what DOT would require with justification. So if there's an intersection with high accident numbers, based on data, we could require that, but it would have to be part of the permitting process. We could not, there's no authority written in here that we can say, commercial establishment X, you have an unsafe driveway and we want you to put in a turn lane. That's not included as part of this.
Well, I know we've heard that certain developments will not impact Jeffers Road. And, I just wonder when the day comes, and they're built, if the traffic is more than what we were told it's gonna be, what's gonna be the answer then?
You could take it to the TIC meeting, TAC meeting, that whoever the representative was from the town at that point, and try to get it put on the DOT schedule for an improvement. But it would come at a state expense or,
Right,
or a county expense.
okay.
And that's what I was going to echo. If it's post-development, after something's been completed and built, it's going to be usually on a state road for a commercial or a major residential development. It's going to be in NCDOT's court. They do conduct their own traffic counts regularly, usually every 3 to 5 years for roadways. So they keep that data up to date and then use that in their analysis for roadway improvements as well.
So do you have enough information to write that in the amendment for us to be able to carry on and set a public hearing for
So-
September the 8th or?
So tonight, we're not actually looking at the text, so, and maybe I should have done this background, the planning board has the authority in our code to initiate a text amendment
Okay.
without council having looked at it. So they've directed me to draft this, and I will present the draft language to you in the public hearing, because it has to be done, with it being properly advertised, so the public's been put on notice. So I would want to at least have the public hearing, open it, and have these types of comments on record once the public knows we're talking about that. And then I would bring any changes back to you.
Okay.
And I'll be sure, based on some of the questions I've heard tonight, I'll be sure and bring that cheat sheet table. I can include some of the example ordinances that we looked at with the planning board and some additional details.
Okay. So but you are looking for us to set this public hearing date for September the 8th, correct, or no?
That's just the proposed date, yeah.
Okay.
So we can hear it and discuss it formally in a public
Okay.
hearing.
So if there's any more questions or discussions, we'll hear that. If not, I'm looking for a motion to set a public hearing date.
I'll make a motion, we set public hearing date September the 8th for text amendment 2201 traffic impact analysis.
Thank you, Randy. Second.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to G, our added on budget amendment.
Just one second, I'm gonna pass this out.
Okay.
So we have been talking the last couple of months about some property acquisition. And we have gotten to the point now where we are ready to close on Lucky's properties. In order to do that, we need to transfer funds from savings account to our operating account so we can have that check and make that happen. So what you see in front of you is a proposed budget ordinance that would draw funds down from the unrestricted fund balance and place it in a capital account, that 80, 10, 50, 70 account, in the amount of $400,000. Now, the acquisition price is $389,000. We have paid for some due diligence work through the phase 1 environmental assessment as well as the property survey. And then we'll have attorney's fees on top of that. We do not expect to spend the full $400,000, but we would like to be conservative with that. And not to give them back. So we're looking for approval of this evening, so that we can transfer funds and get this closing squared away.
Any discussion?
One thing I'll add to that is if you do want to fund this with ARPA funding, we could do that out of that 640 or so that we have left. And that would leave us for the remainder of quarter, if you will, I guess around $200,000. Or we could just pull from unassigned fund balance and then reappropriate ARPA later. It's really up to the board how they want to do that. I mean, the money is the money.
Right. Discussion.
I think if this is an appropriate, expenditure for the ARPA funds, that we go that route.
Anyone else?
If it came from the regular fund balance, can we backfill with ARPA at a later date? It's not now or never, is it?
That's right. Good.
Because I'm a little trepid, I have some trepidation about just whittling down that pot of money. I think it needs to be more of a formal process of how we're gonna cut that pie up, but this is gonna be one big piece, or it's gonna be 100 little pieces, but I'd like to be a little more deliberate about the ARPA, and it may be that we spend it for land acquisition, but if we can come back and do it 6 months from now, then that'll be fine. But for the time being, I'd like this ordinance to be approved just from a regular fund balance, transferring some savings.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
If that is the way you want to go, then there's a sentence that needs to come out of this.
Yes, that's what I was.
So we need to approve an amended one. And I would remove the first paragraph at the end, second line from the bottom, and will be recorded as a portion of revenue replace monies from American Rescue Plan. We'll take that part out.
So just so I know for myself and others watching and listening and here, if for some reason we struggle to find a place to spend that 2.3 million on, we can come back and appropriate this money back in at some point.
Basically, pay
If we don't do it now.
the account back, yes.
Okay. Everybody's good. Okay. I'm good with it that way then. Okay. If everybody's okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve this budget amendment.
Mr. Mayor, I move that this council approve ordinance 2022-15, the budget ordinance for the acquisition of Lucky's Properties LLC, and for the amount of $400,000.
And with,
With the changes noted. Mr. Cantor.
all right, I need a second.
Second.
Any other discussion on this? No. Okay. Sue, you'll want to modify this before I sign, correct? Probably, okay. All right,
I'll just bring it to the next meeting and have it in your folder,
okay.
but yeah, it'll be amended before.
Alright.
And you'll sign.
So we're moving on to staff report updates, financial director, town clerk, when you get caught up.
I don't have much tonight. I'll just tell you that, the audit did start Monday. Wait.
We didn't,
I don't know that, do we have a second on that?
We had a swing on, Randy caught me. Yeah, I called for all in favor, right?
second it.
You second, all in favor, we had them right, okay,
We got both.
we're good. I checked that I had, don't, I always check me,
If we voted, we voted.
okay. Okay,
I seconded. I
okay,
didn't know if we voted.
okay, all in favor, yeah, okay, we're good. Thank you, Randy.
Okay,
Sorry.
so the audit did start Monday. She's been very thorough, and that since we have many funds at this point, different pools of money, it's taking a little longer than usual. She's found nothing significant of note, no concerns. We're very pleased with how it's going right now, and we don't anticipate her to find anything.
Right.
So that's really all I've got. Just that's what's going on.
You, tax collector, Orly?
See if I can work this right. So usually I do not have a July tax collection report. I guess I should start this by saying the tax bills should be mailed by the 17th. But this is your July report. And I thought it was significant this year because there was a large amount, 17, yeah. A large amount of tax collected for prior years in the month of July due to a parcel coming out of the present use value program. And I thought some of you may understand what the program is all about, but I thought we could take this just a minute or two and I could explain a little bit about the present use value program. It's a program that helps individuals in agriculture and forestry to defer taxes. A deferred tax is different from an excluded tax in that once that parcel comes out of the program, is disqualified from the program, the present year's taxes and 3 years prior are immediately due and payable, including tax and penalty. So that's why you see there was a almost $6,500 increase in the levy, the scroll, for those 3 years, 21, 20, and 19. And we also collected that same amount of tax plus a little bit more. We did do some other delinquent collections. So there was almost $7,000 for the 3 previous years for just the month of July.
And this is the tax that would have been due plus a fine, did you say? No.
Penalties and interest.
Penalty.
Yeah, the 2% penalty from January that all delinquent taxes,
Okay.
delinquent accounts incur, plus the 3/4% interest for every month since then. It can be complicated. But that's the tax that would have been paid if that parcel had not been in the program.
And with this just being Mills River's portion, the counties would have been significantly more, so that goes to show you for the farmers and all, what kind of a savings
Oh,
program
sure.
it is for them when they are able to use it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that all you have for us?
That's all I had for you.
Thank
If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Next month, you will have a scroll total for 2022 and adjustments and collections.
Awesome. Okay, we'll move on to the planning director.
Just a quick update. I've been getting a couple citizen calls asking what's going on at the corner of North Mills and Boylston Highway, across from the Ingalls. Since I've told a few of them, I figured I'd bring it up in a public meeting. There's that existing metal building is being remodeled and a building addition put on the back for a brewery, tap room, and full service restaurant. That's all I have in terms of development. We are continuing our search for the planning technician that was approved by this council. We've gotten a few applications in, but are waiting a little longer to see if more come in. And hopefully, after that, maybe we'll be conducting interviews by the end of this month or a little later. That's all I have.
Town manager?
A couple things, just quick reminders, a couple of board members, Water Sewer Advisory Committee meeting, for Hendersonville is on Monday. Mike and I will both be out of town next week going to the conference. The Transportation Advisory Committee meeting is next week as well. Our Parks Director is on a well-deserved vacation, so I'll just run through a couple of quick updates on that. The shelter is progressing nicely. I'm sure you've seen it. So far, everything seems to be on track. They don't have any material issues or concerns other than the roofing material. They haven't been delayed yet, but that's the only item that I think potentially be delayed. The other exciting news in that department is we've made an offer to a programmer. We had several applicants for that position, very strong candidate pool, and have an offer pending right now. Hopefully we'll have somebody in the office by the end of the month, early September. Lastly, in parks, the party in the park was held on Sunday. It was a little bit of rain, but it was a very well attended event. It gave away hundreds of bike helmets. I don't know the final tally yet. Farm market was there. Wolf Feud was there. It was a good time. We got some good public input on the bike and pedestrian plan as well. A couple of dozen folks come by the booth. And that is it from me, although I do want to, Mr. Mayor, put you on the spot one moment because I want to recognize Patty Brown for her completion of a certified municipal clerk. Just wanted to grab a photo. Come on, Patty. Come around. Yeah, please. So Patty has been working the last couple of years on becoming a certified municipal clerk. She is our deputy clerk, and now she has completed all the education requirements necessary. And I just want to publicly recognize her for that work. Thank you.
Absolutely.
On for a
Let's crown me.
Let somebody take a picture.
Well, if you have it next, let me take it. I think it's me. Sorry, up here, you think? They know better than I can do that.
All right.
Thank you, proud of you.
That's all I have, council. Just a reminder, we have a couple of closed sessions coming up.
Okay, council comments. Anything?
I have something real quick. I should have asked for it to be an agenda item, but. So we had a Board of Adjustments meeting that had to be postponed because there wasn't a quorum, right? That's right. So is there any way that we can alleviate a problem like this by having maybe one of the council members on call to sit on something like that? I hate to have,
We got
people-
close before, you remember, we had to wait on one to get here like 30 or 40 minutes before.
yeah, I mean, I hate to have people spend their time and get prepared and then come down here and we don't have enough members on. So, I'm just thinking here.
Yeah, that's a challenging one because you actually do have a full board now. We have all 5 full-time members plus 2 alternates. To answer your question, the only way that council could quote, fill in is if you were an appointed member of that board.
Right. But it's up to this council to appoint members to that board.
That's right. That's right.
So I guess I'm throwing that out to your other 4 here. Does somebody want to step up and maybe fill in if something like this happens again, because they had to open the meeting, postpone the meeting, and everybody's got to come back again. So we had staff time here. It was a waste.
Oh, I'm sure.
So just for the full board's education on this, the board is 5 members. So 3 members is a quorum. So they had a quorum to begin the meeting and they did a few administrative tasks. But for variances, you have to have a 4/5 vote, it's a supermajority. So you have to have at least 4 members to vote on the case, which they could not have on Tuesday. So that had to be postponed. So I think an option might be if you want to replace one of your existing board members with either a council person or someone else.
Can they
Or,
not?
or you can add, we have a policy that
Mm.
sets your five, and I believe an ordinance that sets your 5 board members and 2 alternates. You could create another alternate, but there's some work that would be involved. We'd have to, I think there's an ordinance as well as a
Mm.
policy that would have to be amended.
I think we could do something because I just hate to have people waste their time.
And it's usually when it comes in front of them serious business.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and we wasted money because we had people here.
Sure.
So,
Can they not prearrange when they're not gonna be here and zoom in or something?
So that they typically before every board meeting, whether it's planning board, we don't do it with you folks because you all always come, but the planning board or board of adjustment, we always remind everybody. Orly always confirms with planning board that they're gonna be attendance and Patty does the same thing for the board of adjustment. And we had a quorum for that evening. We had 4 members who had committed to being there. And then the day of, we were reminding folks to be of the time of the meeting, and that's when we found out that one of the members who'd already committed had another commitment. So they got their own wires crossed. Or we don't know that detail, but bottom line is we remind everybody multiple times. Okay. About the meeting.
And that hearing was recessed. So there won't be further expense, but there is,
Right.
like you said, the human factor, the time put in.
it was inconvenient for staff, everybody else.
So would we want,
I'm just throwing that out there. I don't, we can discuss or think about it.
maybe put it on the next agenda for different ideas to approach adding a third alternate and what it would entail to get that changed over and
Can maybe think about it, kick it around.
Yeah, and just off the cuff, I think the third alternate is probably the best option.
and I'll try to reach out to maybe their chairperson and see if they think we need to make some board member adjustments. I mean, maybe, if they're not here regularly, we need to replace them, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's fair.
We gotta have working board. We need, it puts us in a little bit of a predicament. We wouldn't care to do it, but to me, that, if we're gonna separate ourselves from the Board of Adjustment, we need to try to stay separated if possible, or take that all on ourselves, I would think.
Both of your alternates are appointed from your planning board. So if you're trying to keep that separate, that would be a logical pool to go to.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
I'd like to say that the party in the park was a lot of fun and there was a lot of families there and it was good to see everybody come out and all the
Sure.
smiling faces, even in the rain. Some of them just didn't even slow down.
Yeah.
They
And I
just
think
kept
that'll even get bigger as time goes, especially if we get the program in place and all, and get some.
Right. And everybody I met said what a beautiful park we have. So that was good. And on the new sound system we got, I've got questions. I know up here we just see the seal. Do they see us?
Mhm.
Okay,
They sure are.
okay, that's what I was wondering. All we see is what's up here.
That's right.
Monica.
Yeah, and that's a good, I'll just jump in. We're not finished yet.
Okay,
We were waiting on, the microphones were just delivered this week. They were stuck in a port in California for a while, but those are all in now. So the consultant installer is going to be back tomorrow and this weekend. To get these wires actually ran through the walls. We just plug in back here and won't have any of this. And you see, we have 3 cameras right now. Only one's plugged in. But again, once we finish all the wiring, they'll all be active. And there'll be a monitor in front of you. So that will likely be, you see on that monitor is what the public will see out on the internet. to see how reference, and then these will be used if you need to split maps or something like that. But the seal is just kind of a placeholder for the meeting,
Is it looking like it's gonna come in under budget?
very likely.
And, I think I might like to discuss with the council and see what they think about maybe some more transparency on permittings so that we will be aware and not surprised by information we see on social media and the rumor mill and everything.
What would you be looking for? Just maybe Michael to weekly put out what, I guess you're thinking about building permits or what are you looking for exactly?
Well, big things that are coming. I know this past week, for an example, I learned that we were getting a new brewery. And I learned that on Facebook. And so what I saw said that according to the zoning administrator, there's a new brewery coming. Well, I hadn't heard anything about it. So I took a screenshot of it and sent it to Daniel and called him. I said, is this true? And he said, yeah, we approved that a couple of months ago. And I thought, well, I guess we're just, I felt clueless at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff don't bother me, but I could see where it would bother some people.
Yeah.
To me, it's just people carrying on their everyday business and with the ordinances, the way we got them written, they're able to approve a lot of things without our knowledge even of it. And I think that's appropriate too, because we ain't really got time to look at everything. But if you're looking for something in particular and you can tell us, I'm sure Michael would be glad to accommodate any and all of us.
Well,
Just,
if I don't have a clue it's coming, how do I know to ask?
well, I'm just talking about, but what I'm saying is if you'll ask tonight, like what size projects or anything in particular that he can email you a list of weekly or monthly or however, I'm sure he'll be glad to do that.
I try to bring them up at the board meetings as well, and as you know, we've been on recess, so we haven't been meeting for a little bit, so that's why I brought it up tonight in my report.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's easily done, I would say.
Daniel, didn't that new software, didn't you say something one time about that new software with automatic, you could set it up to where it automatically send like your chosen email addresses, things like that you want?
Exactly.
Self-send.
Yes, the new permit software, SmartGov, that Mike is working on getting finished up. Hope to have it in the next couple of months. But as council members, as members of the public, anybody can sign up to the public portal and get, like, I shouldn't say everybody, but there is a reporting feature that we can set up at least internally to get out to the board. That report can run, it would generate automatically. So it could be as often as every day. I would just caution you that it's impossible to keep up with rumor mill. It's impossible for us to relay everything that happens in town.
I mean, I'm not asking to know everything, but I mean, when something major's coming along,
Yeah.
that we don't have to find it out on social media.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we'll make every effort to make you guys aware of that.
And I had one more thing I'd like to ask about. The bike and pedestrian meeting that y'all had. I know we had one before and not many people could get on it. I myself could not get on it. And then they had another part to it here at the party at the park last Sunday.
Yep.
Is that gonna be the only input sessions?
No, the steering committee is meeting once more in October, and then it still has to come back through the planning board and sit in town council for adoption. So there's still ample time for public review. Nothing's gonna be finalized without this board.
Well, I'd rather the public be able to be aware of it and put more input into it.
Yeah, and they'll have that opportunity moving forward with each review of the public.
Okay, thank
You're welcome.
Anything else?
Yeah, I want to chime in real quick on Randy's. sort of adjusting it. I would, for the next meeting, can we get another attendance report for that? When we got about it?
Absolutely. I'll put it on my list of things to bring.
I have asked the sitting chairman, and he's being very nice.
Not to prolong that topic, but the question comes to mind, I've not sat on a board that has alternates. The alternate is only if somebody has to step down, or is it for a situation that just occurred where maybe the same day of the meeting, you call alternate one, alternate two, say, can you be here tonight because somebody got their wires crossed and can't be here to make a quorum? I mean, how are they used?
Exactly as you said. We, for every meeting, Patty calls them to make sure that we're going to have the appropriate number available. And we call the alternates. We expect all 7 to be available for all meetings.
Right.
Through the summer, it's been a little more difficult to get people in. And we went from meeting once in 2 years to meeting every single month and sometimes twice. So it's been a lot larger commitment than some of them signed up for.
Right.
And the alternate commitment is the same as the full-blown member, other than they just don't have a vote unless they're.
And that is what
on.
our staff's expectation is. Yes.
And from a council expectation, I would prefer the alternates to be here to hear it all out in case one wants to get sick and have to walk away in the middle of a meeting. Then you would think they could simply come up here and be part of the vote since they said in the whole thing and not have to have it reheard from start. But it's hard to get them here. It's just hard to get them here.
Our current alternates have been fairly responsive. One of them has had a few work conflicts, but especially with COVID the last few years, and as much as they've met, we don't know up until the minute they walk in the door, is someone going to call us and say, hey, I've got COVID, I can't come. And I don't remember who mentioned this, but Zoom is not an appropriate format or forum, not sure the right word, platform for a quasi judicial hearing.
Right.
It's not really allowed, or it's discouraged. There is not, I don't remember that there's an actual statute against it, but it's strongly discouraged because of communication issues and because you want somebody making these decisions to have you want their full attention, and you want to make sure they've heard everything and have been heard themselves.
Anything else? All right, so we will need to get cleared out here, and we'll go into a closed session. And I don't know if we want to make that motion before everybody resides or whatever.
It's council's choice if you want to say you're going to closed session and take like a 2-minute break or something, and then come back and make your motion, however you want to do it.
First, and we'll ask Brittany's stuff. Thank you. Take a quick break. Can take a quick break.
Thank you.